You are not broken. You are not missing a part that the world forgot to hand you. The only thing standing between who you are now and who you become is the small, stubborn voice that keeps arguing for waiting. It whispers, "Not yet," when conditions are perfect, when I feel ready. That voice is loud because you have trained it well. Today, we are training a new voice, one that says, now. Not someday, not later, now. Listen, being a person of action is not about doing everything at once or living in permanent hustle. It's about owning the choice to move and then moving, even when the conditions are imperfect, even when fear sits heavy on your chest. The secret most people miss is that action doesn't begin with motivation. It begins with a decision, a clean, sharp decision that you will respond to reality with movement, and then you follow through with tiny, brutal, honest steps. You think you need a perfect plan. You think you must wait for inspiration. That thinking is soft and polite and safe, and it keeps your dreams as theory. Real change is messy. Real change is loud. Real change makes mistakes. Real change looks ugly at first. But every person who built anything significant started by doing the smallest thing that pointed in the right direction, and then did the next smallest thing. You can too. Start with this truth. Identity drives action. If you think of yourself as the kind of person who waits, your habits will prove you right. If you tell the world and yourself that you are the kind of person who starts, your behavior will follow. This is not mystical, it's mechanical. Your brain maps patterns. You decide, you act, the brain records the loop strengthens, and over time, that loop becomes a default route. Shift what you declare about yourself, and you shift the wiring that follows. Here is a practice you can do right now. Don't plan to change everything. Choose one micro-action, something so small it seems trivial. 5 minutes of focused work on the project you've been avoiding. One honest conversation you've been putting off. 10 push-ups. 1 email. 1 page. The size doesn't matter. The direction does. Do the micro-action immediately after you make the decision. Momentum is contagious. Once your body moves, your mind will follow. Repeat that micro-action enough times, and the concept of starting loses its weight. You will begin to lean toward movement by default. Fear will show up. That's normal. Fear is not a stop sign. It's a compass pointing directly at what matters. When you are afraid, you are likely close to something significant. The difference between people who win and people who watch winners is how they treat fear. Do not let it become an excuse. Instead, name it. Say, "I am afraid, and I will act anyway." Saying it turns the threat into a clear fact and strips some of its power. You will feel ridiculous at first. That's part of the work. Discipline is misunderstood. Many believe it's a rigid, joyless chain of rules. Real discipline is freedom, the freedom to direct your energy where it matters. Discipline grows when you choose small constraints that steer you toward who you want to be. A nightly ritual that prevents scrolling until midnight. A rule that you write for the first 30 minutes of your workday before checking messages. These are not punishments, they are scaffolding. Build them lightly and consistently. Remove decision fatigue. Make the right move the easy move. Now listen to this. Action is not the absence of doubts. Action is moving in spite of them. Decide fast, adjust slower. Perfection kills more dreams than failure ever will. The market, the world, your relationships, they will not wait for your perfection. They require your presence. So stop polishing the plan while the opportunity fades. Launch, test, learn, repeat. Every piece of feedback is fuel. Even the mistakes are data points that shorten your learning curve. One practical framework to use. Choose a single, clearly defined outcome for the next week. Not a vague desire, not a lofty intention, a specific, measurable step. For example, publish chapter 1 of the book by Friday, or have 3 meaningful conversations about the product with potential customers, or spend 60 focused minutes on the highest priority task every workday. Make that commitment public to someone who will hold you accountable. Social pressure tuned correctly is a powerful engine. It makes the small decisions matter more. Tell one person, send one note, put it in your calendar with an alarm, then honor it. Let's deal with procrastination, the sneaky thief of potential. Procrastination isn't laziness, it's a protection mechanism when the outcome feels uncertain or too big. Shrink the task until your brain can carry it without protest. Chop a mountain into stones you can lift. Use time boxing. Set a non-negotiable 25-minute block and work until the bell rings. You'll be surprised how much you can accomplish when the only rule is start. The act of beginning removes the armor of resistance. Here's something people rarely tell you. Being decisive trains your whole life. When you make small, regular decisions and follow through, your confidence compounds. You begin to trust yourself. Trust is the essential currency of risk-taking. The more you trust yourself to act, the more you will act. People who wait for their confidence to appear before they act are stuck in reverse. Build confidence with motion, not with waiting for feeling. Let's talk about the language you use with yourself. The inner script matters. Replace "I'll try" with "I will." Replace "if I have time" with "I will make time." Small shifts in grammar rewire commitment. When you say "I will," you create a future that you intend to enter. When you say "I'll try," you leave room to drift. Change the story you tell yourself, not with platitudes, but with precise, actionable promises that you keep. Remember this line from one of the thinkers who studied success. Decisiveness is the cornerstone of achievement. Napoleon Hill wrote that successful people make decisions quickly and change them slowly. There's power in that simplicity. Decide, then protect the decision with consistent action. If new information arrives, adapt. But don't let second guessing become your default posture. You will be tempted to wait for a surge of passion. Don't. Passion is often the after effect of action, not the precursor. When you do the work, when you meet resistance and push through, passion follows. You build meaning by effort. The act itself lights the fire. Let your work create your enthusiasm, rather than expecting enthusiasm to create your work. A clean way to test your readiness to become a person of action is to audit your recent week. What did you start and finish? What did you begin and abandon? Where did you bend toward convenience rather than toward your priorities? Don't judge harshly, gather data. Then pick one pattern you can change this week. Make the correction as specific as the previous example, a commitment with a deadline and a visible marker of completion. There are moments when you must act alone, and there are moments when you must enlist others. You are not required to carry every battle by yourself. Build the muscle of asking. Ask for feedback. Ask for introductions. Ask someone to hold you accountable. The right community will not do the work for you, but it will make the path clearer and reduce loneliness. Choose companions who admire movement more than words. Finally, make a covenant with time. Treat it like currency. Every minute you allow to float without intention is a minute surrendered. Guard the early parts of your day as sacred, not with grand rituals, but with ruthless clarity on what matters first. The rest of the day will scramble for attention. If you do not set the tone, it will set you. Action is a practice, and practice requires repetition. The first step is a beating. The 1,000th step is ordinary. Become addicted to showing up. Do small things daily that accumulate into the person you want to be. You already have everything required to start: will, breath, choice. Use them. Now, write in the comments, what is the single micro action you will take in the next 24 hours to prove to yourself you have started? Be specific. What exact step will you do, and when will you do it? Part 2. You can talk about change until your voice is hoarse, but words alone will not move your life. Change starts inside, in the quiet courtroom of your own beliefs. The stories you repeat to yourself, the small lines you throw into the same worn groove every morning, determine whether you act or freeze. If you want to become a person of action, you must become ruthless with the stories that run your life, not cruel, clear. Begin by auditing your inner script. For one full day, notice the phrases you use about yourself. Do you say, "I can't," "I'm not ready," "I'll see," "I'll try"? These are not harmless fillers. They are permissions to stall. Replace them with precise, forward-moving phrases. I will, I choose, I start. The grammatical change is tiny, but it flips a switch. Language is a lever. Use it to move yourself. Beliefs are not fixed truths. They are hypotheses you've run enough times to accept as fact. If you believe you're bad at starting things because of one failed project 5 years ago, you're treating that memory as law. Reframe that evidence. One failure is data, not destiny. Ask, under what conditions did that failure happen? What did you learn? What would a different experiment look like? Treat your life like a lab. Test, observe, adjust. This removes drama and replaces it with method. The most powerful way to change belief is through visible proof. If you want to believe you are consistent, create an experiment that produces visible consistency. Commit to a tiny action for a fixed window. 5 minutes of focused writing every morning for 2 weeks. 5 cold emails, a public post 3 times in the next week. Make the commitment small enough that your brain accepts it, but significant enough that when you complete it, you can point to a real deliverable. When you have proof, the belief follows. It's not magic, it's evidence-based reprogramming. Your inner dialogue is not just a private monologue, it's the thermostat for your behavior. Train it like you would train a muscle. Catch the automatic negative thought and interrogate it. Ask, is this true? What's the opposite evidence? What would I advise my friend? Shift the tone from critic to coach. The critic immobilizes. The coach mobilizes. Practice saying one new actionable sentence to yourself whenever doubt arrives. Name one small step I can take right now. Then take it. Visualization matters, but not as fantasy. Use imagination as rehearsal. Elite performers don't only imagine success, they imagine the messy parts, the pushback, the awkward conversation, the moment your fingers hesitate. They rehearse the resistance and their response to it. That way, when it arrives, you have a practiced script. Spend 5 minutes each day visualizing the micro steps you will take in real, gritty detail. See the environment, feel the discomfort, and see yourself acting through it. This primes the subconscious to move when the cue appears. The subconscious is not mystical. It's a record of repetition and environment. If you want your deeper mind to support action, change what you repeat and what you surround yourself with. Repetition. Choose one small habit and repeat it for 30 days. Environment. Minimize distractions. Make the first action obvious. Want to write? Put your notebook on top of your laptop. Want to exercise? Lay out your clothes by the bed. Your environment can be designed to make the right move the easiest move. Create implementation intentions, simple if-then plans that bypass willpower. If you want to stop scrolling in the morning, your plan could be, if I wake up, then I will stand and drink a glass of water, then open my notebook for 5 minutes. Implementation intentions convert vague goals into automatic responses. They shrink the decision, and decisions are where most energy leaks. Micro-commitments compound. Don't aim to overhaul your entire schedule tonight. Pick one habit loop: cue, action, reward. Be brutal about the cue. It must be unambiguous. If your cue is open my laptop, it's ambiguous. If your cue is after I pour coffee, I will write one paragraph, it's precise. Reward must be immediate. The brain learns fastest from quick feedback. Celebrate the small wins, not with a party, but with recognition. Log it, say it aloud, mark it on a calendar. That tiny dopamine deposit keeps you coming back. Discipline is built like strength, through progressive overload. Start with tiny constraints and gradually increase them. If you commit to 10 minutes of focus today, next week make it 20. If you hold one honest conversation this week, schedule another next week and make it bolder. Consistency, not intensity, rewires you. You are not becoming someone who can endure infinite hardship. You are becoming someone who shows up. Show up repeatedly. Fear will try to disguise itself as prudence. Ask the pragmatic question behind every fear. What's the worst reasonable thing that can happen? Then design a simple mitigation plan. Often, the worst case is smaller than your imagination, and even if the worst happens, you have more than you think to recover. This rational approach breaks the paralysis of catastrophic thought. Courage doesn't mean absence of risk. It means action despite risk with a plan. Build friction around the behaviors you want to avoid and remove friction from the behaviors you want to encourage. Want less social scrolling? Put your phone in another room for specific hours. Want more focus? Use a physical timer and lock your browser for a set period. Make bad choices inconvenient and good choices easy. Tiny shifts in friction shift outcomes dramatically over months. Use social leverages wisely. Announce a micro goal to one person who will hold you accountable. Or better, attach a public cost to failure. Post your commitment to a group. Set a small bet, or promise to report progress weekly. Social accountability accelerates behavior because we care about consistent identity in the eyes of others. But choose your accountability partners intentionally. Pick people who value action over niceness. Remember the role of rest. Action without recovery burns out. Build short, deliberate breaks into your system. Use them to refuel focus, not to avoid work under the guise of rest. Sleep, nutrition, short walks, and real breaks are not optional. They are the fuel for consistent action. Protect them. Finally, write a new identity statement and embody it for 1 week. Not a vague slogan, a specific identity with an actionable commitment. For example, I am someone who finishes the week with one completed project task every Friday by 6 p.m. Or, I am someone who talks to 2 potential collaborators each week. Keep it narrow and measurable. Wear that identity in your decisions. When a choice appears, ask, does this move me toward the identity I've declared? If yes, accept it. If not, decline. This is your training phase. You are learning to run toward friction. You are learning to rewire the beliefs that made waiting easy. You are teaching your subconscious the choreography of starting and finishing. You are building a life that responds to your decisions. Now, write in the comments, what single belief about yourself are you ready to kill, And what is the first micro action you will take in the next 48 hours to prove it dead? Be blunt and specific. Part 3. Action becomes meaningful only when it meets the real world, when your ideas collide with deadlines, feedback, and resistance. Thinking is cheap. Execution costs sweat. If you want to be a person of action, your job is to move principles out of theory and into a system that forces follow-through. Systems beat willpower every time. Systems produce results because they remove the drama of choice and replace it with repeatable mechanics. This part is about turning intention into a practical, weekly, daily, hourly architecture. Start with a simple axiom. Clarity reduces friction. If your next step is vague, your body will stall. Replace fuzz with exactness. Instead of work on project, say, write 600 words on section 3 between 9 a.m. and 10 a.m. on Monday. Specific time windows and measurable outputs convert vague desire into a task your nervous system can handle. Calendar the work, block the time, and treat that block with the same sanctity you'd treat a meeting with a client who pays you a lot of money. Build a playbook for your most important work. A playbook is a written sequence of actions you follow when you need to produce. It answers, what is the first move? Where do I store the files? What are my distraction killers? A simple morning playbook might read, 1. Sit, breathe for 60 seconds. 2. Open the draft labeled Priority. 3. Work for a 45-minute focused block. 4. Log progress, no social media. When you repeat the playbook, your brain stops asking meta questions and starts producing. The playbook turns friction into routine. Protect your concentration like it's a fragile instrument. Flow is not magic, it's an engineered state. Remove the triggers for distraction. Close tabs that are not relevant. Kill notifications. Put the phone out of reach and create a physical boundary. Use time boxing to force a start. 25 to 60 minutes of undisturbed work, followed by a deliberate break, creates high-leverage cycles. During the work block, commit to one output-driven metric. Words, sales calls, design iterations. The metric keeps your mind honest. Learn to spot the sirens of low-value busyness. Meetings that digest your energy without producing clear outcomes. Endless email triage. Busy work that feels productive but isn't moving the needle. These are the traps. Ask this question before you accept any task. Does this move the primary metric for my life or work? If the answer is no, either delegate, defer, or delete. Trim ruthlessly. The fewer things you carry, the more force you can bring to the things that matter. When the hardest work appears, practice the ruthless habit of do the hard thing first. Attack the most important, most dreaded task at the start of your high-energy period. This clears psychological debt. The rest of your day becomes a bonus because you already paid the taxes on progress. The people who win consistently don't polish the easy tasks. They prioritize the one that yields disproportionate returns and start there. Discipline magnifies when you structure your day around the deep work, not the shallow. Procrastination will try to seduce you with the illusion of preparation. Endless research, perfecting the opening lines, adjusting the to-do list. Use the 2-minute rule to break inertia. If a task takes 2 minutes or less, do it immediately. For larger tasks, set the timer for a short sprint and launch. The trick is to lower the activation energy. Once you start, the resistance usually falls away. Start irrespective of mood. Mood follows motion. Failure is not the opposite of action, it's a component of it. The real playbook of high performers includes scheduled experiments and expected setbacks. They design fast feedback loops so they can learn quickly. Instead of asking whether an attempt will succeed, ask what you will learn from it and how it reduces uncertainty. That mindset turns failure into progress. Resilience is not toughness alone. It's the practical ability to extract information from disappointment and reapply it with adjustments. Use short feedback cycles. Rather than waiting months to validate an idea, break it into micro-tests that give immediate signals: a landing page, a prototype, a conversation. The faster you get information, the faster you can recalibrate. This reduces the anxiety of committing to big bets because each bet becomes a series of cheap trials. Cheap experiments preserve capital, mental, financial, and reputational, and speed mastery. Leverage the principle of decision batching to conserve willpower. Make similar decisions at one time: food choices, scheduling, content themes, so you don't waste cognitive resources on repetition. If you decide your weekly themes on Sunday night, you free weekday bandwidth for execution. The fewer decisions about petty things you make, the more decisional energy you have for what requires ingenuity. The environment of action matters. Surroundings provide cues that either propel you forward or anchor you in stasis. Create a physical and digital space that signals work. Reduce visual clutter, keep equipment ready, and make your main task the easiest path in the room. For digital spaces, create folders, templates, and shortcuts that shave minutes off your routine. A small set of smart micro-optimizations compounds into hours over months. Dale Carnegie studied people who acted instead of fixedly worrying about outcomes. One of the simplest truths you can borrow from that tradition: action is the antidote to worry. Do one thing that directly addresses the worry. If you fear a conversation, schedule it. If you fear a presentation, begin by writing a single opening sentence. Addressing the fear with a concrete move collapses dread into manageable steps. Accountability mechanisms are powerful, but choose them carefully. There's a difference between shame-based pressure and performance-based support. The former corrodes, the latter fuels. Pair accountability with constructive feedback and celebration. Report your micro results to someone who will coach, question, and elevate your next moves. The goal is not to be judged, but to be improved. Routines are not constraints on creativity. They are scaffolding for creative output. Set up anchors that mark the beginning and end of focused work. A small ritual, a cup of coffee, a 60-second breath, opening a specific document, signals to your brain that it's time to produce. Over time, these rituals become Pavlovian cues for deep work. Respect them. Practice finishing. Starting feels thrilling. Finishing feels like victory. The difference between people of action and people of intent is a bias toward completion. Force a finish signal on tasks: a published post, a sent email, a delivered module. Completion creates momentum because it creates visible progress. Keep an accessible ledger of your finishes. When you feel weak, review that ledger. It proves you are not empty talk. Scale your action by building repeatable systems, not by heroically adding more willpower. Systems lower the cost of execution. A simple example: if your output depends on client calls, build a templated follow-up sequence, a scheduling link, and a one-click invoicing process. Each system element eliminates friction and frees your mind for the creative part of your work. When setbacks come, and they will, respond with structured recovery. First, acknowledge the result without self-flagellation. Second, extract the facts: what happened, why, and what variables were in play. Fourth, decide the smallest corrective step you can take immediately. Fourth, implement that step within 24 hours. This method prevents rumination and turns disappointment into a clear plan of repair. Finally, make execution social. Create a weekly session where you and a small group report one measurable outcome each. Keep it short, keep it honest. The social rhythm creates external deadlines and reduces the tendency to hide. We are built to move when others are watching, not theatrically, but reliably. Now put this into practice and report back. In the comments, write the single highest leverage system change you will implement this week and the exact time you will start it. Be specific. Name the system, the measurable output, and the start time. What will you build, and when will you begin? Part 4. You do not act in a vacuum. Your decisions rub against other people's expectations, habits, and anxieties. If you want to be a person of action, you must learn to move through the world with other humans, not as obstacles, but as accelerants. The social dimension is where solitary grit either multiplies or grinds to a halt. Master the social game, and your actions scale. Neglect it, and you'll run on fumes. Start with this truth. Influence follows integrity. People who get things done are trusted because they deliver predictably. If you want others to move with you, be the kind of person whose word means something. That doesn't mean performative promises. It means finish what you say you will finish and communicate honestly when plans change. Reliability is magnetic. When others believe you respect the social currency of time and commitment, they will give you leverage you cannot buy. Let's talk about leverage. One conversation with the right person can accomplish more than a week of solo effort. But you must make those conversations count. Don't go into networking for the sake of collecting names. Go in with a clear intention. What do you want to learn? What can you offer? Good asking opens doors. Practice a short, crisp pitch. One sentence that says who you are, what you're doing, and what kind of connection you're seeking. Make it easy for the other person to see how they could help and how helping aligns with their interests too. Give more than you take. This is not a moral platitude, it's a practical compounding strategy. When you offer useful work, introductions, or honest feedback without immediate expectation of return, you create obligations of goodwill that come back around. Help is social glue. If someone helped you in the past, return the favor. If you want others to back your project, be the first to support theirs. Action breeds reciprocal action. Leadership is not a title, it's an influence pattern. People follow leaders who create clarity, remove obstacles, and demonstrate courage. You do not become a leader by holding opinions. You become a leader by taking responsibility for results. Step toward the messy decisions. Own the outcomes, both wins and failures. When you model accountability, others relax into the work and start to act. That's how movements form. One person decides to carry the load, and others choose to follow a path that has weight and direction. Practice small acts of leadership every week. Volunteer to own the next meeting agenda and deliver its top 3 outcomes. Offer to coordinate a small experiment that tests a new idea. When you lead with a bias toward action, even imperfect action, you reduce analysis paralysis for everyone around you. People will prefer to move with the person who does something rather than with the person who endlessly theorizes. Communication is the engine of influence. Learn to be clear, concise, and kind. When you ask for something, say what you want, by when, and why it matters. When you give feedback, be specific about behavior and the impact. Avoid vague criticism. People act when they know what to do and why it matters. Replace "we need to do better" with "I need you to deliver X by Friday so we can meet the client's deadline." Concrete requests invite responses. There is a huge difference between persuasion and manipulation. Persuasion respects autonomy. Manipulation subverts it. Influence that lasts is built on mutual benefit. Frame your proposals around shared outcomes. Use stories to make the impact real, not to deceive, but to illuminate. Show the problem, the move you propose, and the clear upside. When people see how the action helps them or their tribe, they are far more likely to engage. Build your circle with intention. Your network should include people who challenge you, people who support you, and people who can do what you cannot yet do. Avoid echo chambers that reinforce your excuses. Seek difference. Find one or two people who can push you into discomfort in a constructive way. Mentors, peers, or colleagues who will call your bluff and offer alternatives. The right discomfort speeds growth. Accountability partners are invaluable. Choose them carefully. An accountability partner should be honest and action-oriented, not a cheerleader who validates excuses. Set a regular check-in. What you committed to, what you did, what you learned, and what you will do next. Keep it short and brutal. Accountability should not shame, it should clarify. When someone is expecting your report, your micro-actions become non-negotiable. Learn to ask for what you need. Asking is a skill. Many people confuse asking with begging and let pride or fear keep them silent. A good ask is brief, specific, and actionable. Can you introduce me to 2 product managers in your network by next week? Or, will you give me 30 minutes of feedback on this pitch on Thursday at noon? Practice requests that reduce friction for the other person. Give options, set short windows, and state the benefit for them. People will help when it's easy to say yes. Conflict is not the enemy of action. Unresolved conflict is. The faster you learn to have direct, respectful, hard conversations, the more energy you free for real work. Use structure. State the observable behavior, state the impact, propose a clear change, and invite their perspective. Keep emotion out of the facts. You'll be surprised how quickly issues dissolve when they are addressed with clarity and respect. Avoiding conflict builds hidden taxes on your time and morale. Create rituals that bind groups to action. Rituals are simple, repeatable practices that focus attention and create shared momentum. A weekly demo hour, a 5-minute sprint at the start of a meeting, a ritualized debrief that always ends with one concrete next step. Rituals reduce ambiguity and make the next move obvious. Teams that ritualize finishing tasks rarely lose track of outcomes. Public commitments scale your follow-through. When you share a project deadline publicly, a post, a newsletter, a social update, you add social fuel. Publicity creates accountability and attention that converts into momentum. But only make public commitments you intend to keep. Repeated public failure erodes trust and your capacity to mobilize others. Teach by example. If you want a culture of action, show the behaviors you expect. Deliver early drafts, admit mistakes openly, and iterate in public. When others see you doing the imperfect work, they feel permission to try. Silence about process kills momentum. Visible process encourages it. Cultivate generosity in critique. When you evaluate others' work, prioritize actionable feedback. Say what works, what doesn't, and the single change that will move it forward. People act when feedback is usable. Vague praise or nebulous criticism leaves them stuck. Be precise and kind. Scale your influence by building structures that outlast you. If you lead a project, don't be the only person who knows how it runs. Document key steps, create templates, and train someone to take over. Design your initiatives so they can survive turnover and continue to generate results. Systems amplify individual action. Guard your integrity fiercely. Social influence is fragile. One misstep in ethics or honesty can collapse years of trust. Choose transparency over short-term gain. Admit errors publicly when they matter. Fix what you can and be explicit about the correction. People respect those who make amends and move forward with clarity. Finally, measure social ROI. Track which relationships produce disproportionate returns, learning, introductions, motivation, and invest there. Trim the ties that consume more energy than they deliver. This is not callousness, it's stewardship of your social capital so you can pour it into the highest leverage moves. Now do this exercise. Reach out to 3 people this week with a clear, specific ask that serves both of you. Make each ask brief and time-bound. Report back in the comments. Who did you contact? What did you ask for? And what happened? Be concrete. Names, actions, and results. What did you learn about asking and about the quality of your network? Everything you build begins to mean more when it becomes part of who you are. Action is not an event, it is an identity you inhabit. If you want movement that lasts, you must stop treating achievement like a seasonal sprint and start treating your life like a decades-long project. That doesn't sound romantic, but it is the most beautiful and unglamorous truth. Steady accumulation beats heroic effort. Your job is to design a life where motion is the default, where momentum is the normal state, and where recovery, reflection, and refinement are built into the system. First, decide what done looks like for the major domains of your life. Don't be vague. For work, what outputs define success this quarter? For relationships, how much time and what quality of attention will you provide? For health, what specific markers matter? Sleep hours, consistent exercise, daily walks? For learning, what competence will you add this year? When you define done with precision, you create targets. Systems know how to aim. Vagueness invites drift. Clarity demands action. Embed rituals that scale across months and years. Rituals are the scaffolding of identity. A morning ritual that signals the start of productive hours. A weekly ritual for planning and triage. A monthly ritual for learning and recalibration. A quarterly ritual for bold bets and pruning. These rituals become the backbone of your project. When you show up for the rituals, you are not relying on mood. You are honoring a structure that produces results. Over time, your rituals will outpace willpower as the engine of your life. Make your career, relationships, and health into systems you can iterate. Break large goals into 90-day experiments. At the end of each 90-day block, measure what moved, what failed, what surprised you. Then design the next block with 1 clear priority and 2 supporting habits. This cadence keeps you nimble. The 90-day frame is long enough to produce meaningful results and short enough to avoid stagnation. It's a rhythm you can hold for years. Guard your time fiercely and spend it on high-leverage forks. The compounding power of your hours means small reallocations produce massive outcomes over time. Learn to say no without guilt to things that graze your attention but do not move your core metrics. Saying no is not rejection of others, it is an allocation of your capacity. The people who have done the most meaningful work in history learned the art of subtraction. They removed the noise so the signal could be heard. Energy management is more important than time management. You can have a perfect schedule and still accomplish little if your body and mind are depleted. Prioritize sleep, movement, nutrition, and boundaries. Short naps, walking meetings, and a regular wind-down routine keep your cognitive engine healthy. When your baseline energy is higher, the same focus rituals produce more output. Think of energy as the fuel that gives your systems range and resilience. Build for sustainability. Sustainable action is repeatable, enjoyable enough, and integrated with your life. If your system depends on heroics, marathon work sessions, extreme deprivation, or martyrdom, it will collapse. Design practices that you can keep for decades. Readable routines, manageable commitments, and periodic seasons of intensity followed by planned recovery. This is how you convert bursts into lifelong performance. Keep learning intentionally. The person of action is also a student of feedback. Create a loop where you try, record what happened, extract one lesson, and apply it. Read with purpose. One book, one course, one mentor at a time. Apply what you learn immediately in a micro-experiment. The applied knowledge sticks. Theoretical intake without application becomes noise. Applied learning becomes leverage. Protect your identity with small, consistent proofs. Identity is not declared once, it's proven again and again. If you say you are someone who finishes projects, then finish weekly tasks. If you say you are someone who reaches out, then reach out. These are not symbolic acts. They are the currency your subconscious uses to bankroll future action. Every completed task is a deposit into the account of I can do it. The balance grows quietly until one day your default behavior has shifted. Plan for resistance, relapse, and regeneration. Every person who moves consistently will have seasons of stall. When you slide, do not catastrophize. Have a recovery plan, a short stopgap to reestablish momentum, a 48-hour sprint, a reflective checklist to diagnose what changed, and a small recommitment to your rituals. Recovery is an intentional skill. It prevents temporary failure from turning into identity change. Choose the metric that matters and defend it. In different seasons, you'll have different lead metrics: output, revenue, relationships maintained, hours in flow. Pick the metric that aligns with your highest priority and protect it like oxygen. When meetings threaten your metric, cancel them. When habits threaten your metric, prune them. Measures are not the point in themselves, they are the lever. Once you pick them, let them guide trade-offs. Scale your life by delegating and automating the predictable. If you want to multiply your impact, free yourself from repetitive tasks. Hire for weakness, outsource for time, and automate what can be automated. The more you buy back your attention, the more room you have for high-leverage moves, strategy, creation, and deep relationship work. Legacy matters because it orients daily choices. Think of the person you want to become in 10 or 20 years and ask, what habits would that person have started 5 years earlier? Use the future self as a compass. Small acts today compound into the person who writes the story you want to read later. This perspective makes discipline not just about sacrifice, but about stewardship of potential. Be generous with the tools and systems you create. Teach others how you work. Write down your playbooks, templates, and rituals. If you want a culture of action, the fastest way to build it is to lower the activation energy for others. The person who spreads the system multiplies impact. Systems scale when shared. Honor the paradox. Action requires both courage and patience. Courage to start, patience to persist. Rush will make mistakes. Stagnation will make regret. Practice both, bold initiation and patient accumulation. Celebrate milestones, not just outcomes. The rhythm of celebration keeps the soul interested and the engine warm. Finally, affirm a single living question that will keep you honest. What is the smallest thing I can do today that aligns with who I want to be in 5 years? Answer it, do it, and repeat. Consistent attention to that question reorganizes your day into a lifetime of purpose. Now, one last active step. Write in the comments, choose one domain, work, relationships, health, or learning, and name the exact identity you will inhabit in the next 90 days. Then write the single measurable habit you will use to prove it each week. Be specific and brutal. State the habit, the measurement, and the day and time you will do it. This is how small vows become a life. If this video moved you, subscribe and like.